Welcome to 1850 Main Street, a place where friends get together and talk about their country and hope for a brighter future. Today, Rob Walgate and Alan C. Duncan from the Public Square are joined by David Zanotti, the CEO of the American Policy Roundtable.
It's common knowledge in the world of media and broadcasting that you should never read comments about yourself, but sometimes a comment section can be very informative.
So which is more interesting, the Washington Post editorial where they're acknowledging the fact that America has got a very serious problem, but maybe it's just a really serious problem. We're not exactly sure, but we're going to talk all around it, but not reach any conclusions because maybe they don't have the courage to acknowledge the truth on this one. But then there's the comment section.
I was taught, though, of all the times that we're quoted in newspapers, that we do television, that we see videos, I was told, don't read the comments. And really make sure your mom doesn't read the comments.
Oh, yes. Don't read the comments about yourself. That's 100% true. But definitely, sometimes the comment section's way more interesting and entertaining.
Grab the popcorn.
Yeah. It's rough, though. It's rough.
We'll leave these people nameless because they're not here to defend themselves. So we're just talking about their ideas. Here's one. All right. We'll see what happens in November, but lots of Americans want to elect a violent, profane, greedy grifter for president. You should be writing about that instead of promoting this, quote, more babies stuff, end quote, which is actually in step with the Trump agenda.
Oh, they were talking about Trump. I wasn't sure which candidate they were talking about until you clarified on the last sentence.
Here comes the one right behind it. Of course men want kids. They take zero risks physically. They don't have to worry about dying with a miscarriage. And women do 90% of the blank work of childcare. God knows the Republican Party wants to force you to have kids, but doesn't want to give you a single dime of help. If you lose a job, your kids will go hungry. And the same GOP who says children are precious inside the womb is happy to let them starve outside it. Moving right along in the realm of objectivity.
Yeah, tell me how you really feel. I will say this. They are correct that women do more work in bearing children, bringing them into the world. Nobody's arguing with that. That is true, but that has been true since the beginning of human history. We're talking about a problem that we're going through now. We just discovered that women do more work in this department than men. That's why our birth rate's declining. Did we just figure this out? I don't think that's the issue. And I don't think it's Donald Trump's fault that our birth rate's declining.
Different approach on this one. $36 trillion in national debt, $1 trillion in annual interest expense, and $2 trillion in annual deficits infinitum. I think they mean ad infinitum, says it all. When these numbers worsen and interest rates blow out because investors refuse to buy risky treasury bonds, Zoomers and millennials will be regretting their decision to depopulate the country. Okay? Anyone want to decode that? Because that's a lot of statements. And it's like A plus B equals C. But can we break that one down a little?
Yeah,
the math guy, right?
I think part of that equation, they're saying, they're getting to the Social Security aspect where a lot of people are putting a lot more into it than maybe they're going to end up getting out. Someone's got to get short squeezed on this at some point. And if there's less to pay for the older people, at some point, the older people aren't going to get what they put into it. So someone's going to lose somewhere. The 36 trillion number, that should concern everybody. We've been screaming for years about a balanced budget, the need for a balanced budget, the need to cut spending, but no one seems to want to cut spending. It's always a party with politicians spend like drunken sailors with apologies to drunken sailors because when they run out of money, they had to stop. The politicians just continually hit print.
Yeah, well, yeah. One of the people commenting. See, that's the other thing. When you're in the comment section, you can comment on the comments and then comment on the comment of the comments. So it just goes all the way down. One person said all that debt, that's the reason you shouldn't bring a child into the world is all this debt that they're going to be inheriting. So people are just duking it out here in the comments on this Washington Post piece.
Oh, and the WAPO readers are not happy with the writers. Yeah. Here's another comment. Yeah. And yet with all this, the board decided that the discourse needed was another commentary on the failing birth rate, but this time out of paternalistic concern for Americans' happiness, using statistics from a right-leaning think tank with the stated purpose of increasing marriage rates. For shame, WAPO board. The premise of concern doesn't negate all of the implicit arguments about failing birth rate. Even if you disavow association with their negative connotations above, other people's reproductive choices are their own business. It is never anyone else's business to comment on it.
You can't even comment on it. What you can't even. That's so interesting. That person is saying,
Alan, wait, Alan, okay. Watch this.
Okay.
2.1 is bigger than 1.6.
But you can't even say that. You can't even say that.
You can't even say the math, can you?
No. Well, that's funny. This person read a different article than I read. I didn't get paternalistic concern. I got an article that was pure stats, pure numbers, so much so that it bothered me that they wouldn't just come out and say, hey, children are valuable. Human beings have worth and dignity. They couldn't bring themselves to even say it. This editorial board took great pains to be as not condescending as they could, to the point that it was annoying. So that's a very interesting comment.
This is what we've come to in regards to the mindset of, and there are a lot of Washington Post readers that are saying, I'm boycotting, I'm dumping my subscription, blah, blah, blah. So this is the definition now of right-wing propaganda.
The Washington
Post. Well, listen,
the Washington Post.
You're making an amazing point. I think this is why reading the comments is so important. Unless these are unless these are bots somehow. That's, sometimes that happens.
Russian interference.
Exactly. But if these are real human beings making these comments, this tells us a lot about what some of our friends and neighbors are thinking, because people get to come on here and make anonymous comments with weird usernames. If this is what some people are thinking, we've got a lot of work to do to try to understand them, why they think this, and maybe try to help them come to a more robust, philosophical, theological, life-affirming worldview.
Now, and here's, they always default then, Alan, to their final position, which is, you can't make me have children and you have no right to talk about me. Well, first off, we're not talking about anything. We're talking about the Washington Post talking about a Pew Research study in which people voluntarily told Pew exactly what they wanted to say, and Pew published exactly what the people said. So this is just the mindset of where a large portion of our population is. I'm not suggesting it's the majority. It's significant. And if it wasn't significant, then the 2.1 would be on the other side of the 1.6, but it's not going that way. And we're whistling past the graveyard.
And we do live in a society where people get frustrated with stats and numbers. I mean, you can tell some people that 5 + 5 is 10, and that frustrates them and they want to argue about it. Well, it's a fact. There's nothing left to argue about. And this article, as much as it was filled with facts and statistics, and I know that frustrated you, obviously, it frustrated many people typing in a basement as well, because
it frustrated them the other way, though. That was the thing.
Right. Yeah.
I'm blown away by this. I did not realize, and silly me, I don't know where I've been. Maybe I have been in a basement. This is now a right-wing talking point. Wanting children to be born, wanting more children is now considered by some people a right-wing talking point. I just didn't know that. I didn't know. Now I do. So I got to read the comments sometimes.
Thanks for stopping by at 1850 Main Street. We're glad you're here. Do you want to learn more about what is really going on behind the scenes in public policy? Tune in to The Public Square on over 200 radio stations coast to coast. Or download the free Public Square mobile app from your app store. Just look for The Lamppost. Find out what America is really talking about at thepublicsquare.com.
And of course, the answer is, if the government would just give more money to help people, then people would have more children. Okay. All right. So I'm not sure exactly how the math and all that works, but China's trying that right now. And once you've inculcated enough hopelessness in your culture, people stop having children. And one of the points of hopelessness that emerges from not all, but a lot of these comments is the hopelessness that has been set in people's minds about the climate. That global warming is absolute, inevitable. The clock is ticking. And the only way we can stop global warming is whatever extreme measures are necessary to stop this whole question of carbon. And people, thus, who create the scenarios of more carbon are the ones who are the problem. Less people means the earth will be healthier. Oh, really? What if some of those people we decided to not be born would actually have a better set of scientific solutions?
They could be the answer to the problem, not the problem. But I can remember, this catastrophic screaming has been taking place for decades. I can remember in the 80s being in junior high and someone was using an aerosol can for hairspray after gym class. And they got we all got lit up and lectured about how there was going to be the biggest hole in the ozone layer and we're all going to fry and, we wouldn't make it till we're 30. And I mean, we were just sitting there staring at the teacher we're like, what are you talking about? We didn't know, but it did strike a little fear in us. But that was the argument in the 80s.
Here's 2 comments that just won't go away. Russia is making it illegal to not have kids. I wonder how long it will take J.D. Shillbilly to adopt this, to try to shove this policy down our throats. Why is WAPO publishing this blank? And the next person answers, because Washington Post has become increasingly right-wing.
Wow.
Say what? The idea that having children is a good idea if you have already accepted a radically progressive social services safety net that requires everyone to participate from the day they start making $1 and reporting it into Social Security, then they will take that money from you all your life, wherever you're working, and they will take it and apply it to debt and deficit in the name of telling you they're saving the money for you. You'll never get a dime of interest on that money. Then if you make it to 67 and a half or 68 or whatever it'll be, 70 by the time you get there, they'll start to give it back to you a month at a time. But if you keep working because you can't live on $3,000 a month or whatever the equivalent will be at that time, they'll tax you. You'll keep paying Social Security in on your wages, and they'll then tax you on the wages on the money they give you back from Social Security. It's a scam, and it's barely working now with the population demographics that we have. Can you imagine what it will look like if we have 50% fewer people in the workspace?
You're going to see some increase in taxes, number one, but I want to get that comment that you gave, the shot they took at J.D. Vance. Now, can you imagine J.D. Vance? Let's take away his political persona. Let's take away the individual and anything about him. If you just told someone you're going to have a child that grows up in poverty to a mother of addiction that's going to join the service, get out, go to Yale, graduate, and become a lawyer, who in America wouldn't celebrate that? Who in America wouldn't say, wow, this is the land of possibilities. Wow, look at what can happen here. But people frown on it. People clown it. Why? Because of political positions. And look who he's married to. They came out and said, I know what the commenter said on some other things about him only wanting all white children in this world. Yeah. His children aren't all white. I mean, if you looked at the family picture, that's what drives me crazy.
Here's the
about
problem.
The political fights in this world.
You're 100% right. He made a stupid comment about childless cat ladies that was supposed to be fun. He probably thought it was funny. It was the dumb comment.
By half, right?
It's not winning you any support. You don't need to say it, but that doesn't mean that he's going to institute Russian-like policies to force people to be impregnated. You just can't make that leap. It's absurd.
But think about where we are. For 51 years or 50 years, we had Roe versus Wade and the Supreme Court telling us, all of us, exactly what the parameters would be in regards to the question of abortion. All right, the government was in everyone's health clinic, in everyone's bedroom. Now, it was okay because the left was getting what they wanted out of the government, which was abortion on demand for any reason throughout all 9 months of pregnancy. Now we're in a position where there are more. Now, Roe falls, Dobbs comes after it, but instead of there being fewer abortions, even though there's over 20 states that have put some form of legislative restrictions, but now you've got the situation where there's more abortions than there were then. More abortions now than under Roe. Well, they don't want that headline out there because that would take away all the crisis, all the existential threat that they have to have every election. So now they're basically saying that people want to force people to breed. Well, I've never heard anything like that. Even in other words, no matter what you say, they're going to say, you want the government in the bedroom. But their solution to the problem is for the government to get in the bedroom and give you more money each step along the way to encourage you to have more children. I mean, the logic here just defies imagination.
It does. Hey, did you say we were gonna talk about Soylent Green? Did we tease that last episode?
Soylent Green. Yes. Okay, first off, it's a movie, and it was actually from a book, but the book had a title that the title of the book was Make Room, Make Room. Did you read that? That was the original title of the book that became Soylent Green.
Did the movie who'd the movie have in it? Did it have
Charlton Heston?
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And get this one. Do you know who had their last performance of their life in this film?
No.
You know, Alan.
I want to guess. I want to guess Reagan, but I'm sure it's not.
No. Edward G. Robinson. Do you remember Robinson?
No.
What was he in?
Edward G. Robinson was the guy who always talked like this. See, you know what I mean? You know, and you. He had that certain unique voice. So Billy Crystal does a shtick on Edward G. Robinson in the what was the story about Moses? Not the greatest story ever told, but the Ten Commandments. Yeah. Okay, Charlton Heston's in the Ten Commandments. Yeah. Charlton Heston's also in Soylent Green. Okay, so Edgar G. Robinson plays like this role as Pharaoh in Ten Commandments. All right, or someone in Pharaoh's court. I can't remember which one, but he has this line where he's talking to the people and he says, "All right, now where's your Moses now?" Okay, and Billy Crystal thinks that's got to be the funniest thing in all history. Here's Robinson talking about Moses, one of the founding elders of the reality of Judaism. Where's your Moses now?
like a mobster, like a mob boss kind of a
exactly persona. The ultimate mistake in casting.
That's so funny.
Robinson. But anyhow, he's in Soylent Green.
He is.
And he's there. And so Soylent Green is a dystopian movie, and it came out in 1973. But it was cast in the year 2022.
Now I know why. Now it's all
it was cast in the year 2022.
Oh, and that's what it was supposed to take place.
Yes, yes. Okay. So you know how when they go forward and they're going to do so this one's 2022. So Alan, how did it work out? I mean, what was the whole Soylent Green thing about what's going to happen in 2022?
Well,
they predicted COVID, right?
Pretty close. Now, I got to be honest. I have not seen this film yet. I have not watched this film. I love classic cinema, but I have not seen the film. But I was reading about it because one of the commenters mentioned the film from this WAPO piece. I'm trying to find the comment. They misspelled the name, so I can't search for it. But they said we need to institute a Soylent Green-like solution, which basically, can I spoil the movie? Is it old enough?
Yeah, go ahead. If you don't spoil it, it's not worth watching. Didn't spoil it with my Edward G. Robinson.
Yeah. So basically, the Soylent Green was like a drink. You would drink this drink, right? Sort of like an energy drink type of a thing. Healthy. It was supposed to be very healthy, very sanitary, I'm sure. But what they were doing was they were killing all the old people and turning them into the drink, so the young people could drink the drink. And that's what they find out at the end of the movie. Is that correct? Am I close here in the ballpark?
What it comes down to is the whole movie is a mystery about Charlton Heston, who finds out that Soylent Green is actually people. That what the government is doing is taking all the dead bodies and processing them into an energy drink and feeding it back to the people for nutritional value. And that's it. And so the whole punchline is Soylent Green is people. Pretty ominous. Didn't do great at the box office. Most people, it's obscure and don't know about it.
73 was tough enough without that being your entertainment, I suppose.
Well, it is ironic that the same year that the court does Roe versus Wade, the movie Soylent Green comes out, which is basically, at the end of life, the government's just basically taking old people out to use them as food. There's a connection in the idea that the ethic that you hold in life from the beginning is the ethic that you'll probably hold at the end. That's the premise. And that's been the premise for a long time in culture, that life is life and the value you put on life becomes a universal ethic in your culture. If you look at some of these comments, you realize that there's no way to describe a lot of them other than the fact that there's something about being a progressive what actually makes you really, really friendly toward people who agree with you. But
well, that's funny. This person who commented, hey, maybe we need to do a Soylent Green solution I think they missed the point of the movie. I don't think you're supposed to get to the end of the movie and think, oh, that was creative. They made the drink out of people. I don't think you're supposed to like it at the end of the movie. This person is reading this article and thinking, hey, maybe let's just do that so that then the young people can have the old people's homes. That was the comment. That's what they took out of this piece about the birth rate. They thought, why don't we kill the old people and give young people their homes? That's a comment on this piece.
So, in other words, instead of the government giving people money so that they can get homes, it'd just be easier for the government to take out the old people so that the young people could get the homes.
Eliminator.
Yeah. We'll redistribute property.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that movie didn't do that well at the box office.
Well, again, I imagine it was supposed to be a cautionary tale. It wasn't supposed to be an idea.
Yeah, it left a bad taste in some people's mouths.
Oh, come on.
Sorry.
You know what's really sad about that, Alan?
What's that?
He actually thinks that's funny.
We encouraged this, though. We laughed.
The conversations are just getting started. To get connected, check out 1850mainstreet.com. We don't data mine anyone or sell your information. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single conversation. We'll see you next time here at 1850 Main Street.